Did everybody hear that? Hello, everybody. My name is Curtis, and I am an addict and an alcoholic. How's it going, guys? Good. Tonight, as you heard earlier, we are going to be doing an Ask It Basket. This is one of my favorite times. Thank you so much. This is one of my favorite times of the year and really of the rhythm that we have. And just to kind of mention the rhythm that we have. And so every month, we are going to have teachings. And then the fourth Monday of every month, we will have a testimony. And when a fifth Monday of the month happens, we're going to do an Ask It Basket. And so it's a really great opportunity because, you know, as somebody who helps develop content for, you know, what's shared from the stage, you know, we have a lot of accountability when it comes to that. But we also want to hear from what's going on inside your mind. The struggles that you're facing inside of recovery, the struggles that you're facing inside of faith, so that we have an opportunity to engage with you on a real level and not, I don't ever want to be preaching at you, if that makes sense. I don't ever want to just say, well, this is good for you guys, but, you know, it doesn't apply to me. The way that we develop content is through our experience, strength, and hope, and according to the scriptures. And so that's what we're looking to do. Tonight is a great way to accomplish that with a nice kind of shotgun blast. We're going to get a whole bunch of questions from you over the last month, which is exactly what happened. And then I asked 4 brave panelists to join me on stage and to field those questions. And so in this moment, could we welcome our panelists onto the stage? Yeah. All right. Now the fun begins. All right. And so as I said, my name's Curtis. I'm an addict and an alcoholic. If we could, just before we begin with the questions, just go across the stage and introduce yourself and your area of struggle, and then we'll get going. And so if we could, start right here, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is James, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, James.
Thank you. Yes, and a follower of Jesus, and I am in here to stay. Thank you.
Nice.
Hi, my name is it on? Okay, sorry, y'all.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Deja. I'm a codependent and an addict, and I'm working a program right now for control.
Hi, Deja.
Hey, family.
Hi, I'm Mickey. Work a program for drugs, alcohol, and codependency.
Hey, Mickey.
Hi, I'm Christine, and I work a program for codependency, which for me can show up in a major form of control.
Hi, Christine. All right, and so let's get to it. Okay, and so we did hear a lot of things. Just so a little bit more context of the night, we asked everybody for your questions regarding starting out in recovery. And so for some of us, this might be a reminder, maybe kind of a tap on the shoulder to say, oh, I stopped doing that. And then for many of us, it'll also be like, okay, this is how I can pursue that. And so to start off, I would like to ask Christine. It says this: how long should I wait to get involved in a relationship when I am starting in recovery?
I'm glad y'all find that humorous.
That's right.
I was going through a divorce when I began my recovery journey, so I was so far away from even wanting to be in a relationship. So in those moments, it didn't apply to me. But now that I'm on the other side of working my steps, I recognize that in my first marriage, I went into that relationship with like an 18-wheeler full of junk. And now that I've worked my steps, when I got into my last and only marriage, my final marriage, I went in with a small box truck. So for me, having that stuff worked through was so nice to not have to bring it to the table in my new relationship. But I also have connections with a lot of women who are in that single field and are wanting to be in relationship. And one of the things that I encourage them is that during that time when you're working through your steps, we're emotionally vulnerable. And so we're digging up all of that stuff. And what is the best distraction from emotional vulnerability? A relationship, right? And so in my 20 years of experience in recovery, I would say 80% of people's relapse comes from something that happened in a relationship that just then continued on down the line. So I encourage my sponsees not to be in a relationship until they're on the other side of their fourth step, but that's my encouragement. It's not a rule. They get to make their own decisions.
Nice, thank you. I feel like I want to ask a guy now. And so, Mickey, all right, how long should I wait to get involved in a relationship when I am starting in recovery?
This would be a don't do as I did, do as I say.
Thank you for that little...
I thought you would like that. Until the last one, so then it's all good. So a little story or rule we go by, and I say we, some of the the groups that I've been in, it goes like this. When you feel like you want to have a relationship, buy a plant. Okay, wait a year, and if it lives, I don't know, buy a goldfish. And if that makes it a year, buy a bird. And if that makes it a year, get yourself a dog or a cat and wait 2 years. And if it lives, then maybe. And
nice.
That's the moral of the story, is what she said. Wait until you get your stuff together.
That's right. That's really what I'm hearing is, it's very, it becomes this temptation for us to start to move towards, well, I'm feeling better now, so I should be able to handle this now. But the reality is that we want to be able to get our bearings underneath us. We want to have confidence. We want to have support. We want to have the team of people in recovery that surround us so that we can have opportunities to set good things up. And that does happen through time, through working through your steps, through challenging yourself in other areas so that we have the ability to say, yes, I am the person that I would want to be with. I am becoming the person that I am looking to find. And that's really what we're trying to establish is let's give it some time. Let's work out the situation that brought us into the rooms, and let's move forward. Thank you, guys. That's great. So, James, I want to ask you, why do we sing at recovery? Does worship help in my recovery?
That's a good question. So, singing in recovery, I feel it helps with being more connected emotionally, because logically we can think and do all sorts of things and read and hear written words and people speak like I'm speaking right now. But there's something about music, me being a musician and singing for a living. There's just some spiritual thing that happens, and I know that it happens in these rooms. I do believe music it just gives wings to the words, and it helps to release. I think it's a release. That's my experience. I love it. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. Everybody write that down. It gives wings to the words, okay? That was great. Thank you. Oh, man. And so, Deja, how do you measure your success in the real world when it comes to recovery?
So for me, I measure my success based off of in the past, how I do things now. So there will be times where I'll go through the exact same thing, but in a different way, and how I responded to it now versus how I would respond before I had recovery. That's how I measure my success. But I also think there are times where I don't even recognize how far I've come. So I think it's nice to have that team and that accountability, because sometimes where I think that I'm failing, I have my sponsor or my families in Christ who are telling me, no, like they're highlighting in those moments when I'm spiraling or I think that I'm a failure. So for me, it's how I used to respond versus how I respond now. Well, react and how I respond now.
Nice. That was great. Thank you so much. All right. Let's think about some sponsorship. We got a lot of sponsorship questions. First one, this is a couple part. So I'm just going to start with the first part of this. How do I find a sponsor? Mickey.
Thanks. So you find a sponsor by coming here or to some recovery group. That's your first thing. You've got to participate somewhere. And at that point, you start listening, and you listen a lot, and you find someone that you find interesting, or you find someone that you can ask questions to. And with that, if you ask that person a question and you finally feel like you're ready for a sponsor, you ask them to be your sponsor, or you can ask them a recommendation for a sponsor. But it starts by coming here, I think, is where it starts.
Awesome, thank you. I don't know if everybody caught that. You can either ask them to be your sponsor or ask them for a recommendation of a sponsor. You know, I love that aspect of what you just shared, Mickey, because a lot of times, you know, approaching somebody that we want to be our sponsor, I shared this a little while ago. Actually, I think I shared this last week. I felt so nervous. You know, I was so vulnerable in that moment. You know, I felt like I was entering into this, like, relationship, you know, that it was like I was asking somebody out on a date kind of thing, you know. But the reality is that we're not entering into that kind of relationship, you know. We're entering into a relationship because we see somebody has what we want. And so we want to pursue somebody that we recognize is working a program, and then we can say, like, who do you recommend? Because it doesn't have to be that person, but that is a good way. If they say no, then great, I understand. Maybe you already have a couple sponsors. Who else do you recommend? And then that will be a good way to continue to pursue. But if you ask somebody and they say no, that's not the be-all, end-all. You know, we have the ability to, who else do you have in mind? How else can I continue in this pursuit? Thank you, Mickey. Christine, I want to ask you the same question. You know, how do I find a sponsor? And the second part of it is, you know, what are some of the things we should be looking for in a sponsor?
So when I first joined the rooms and I asked, how do I find a sponsor, they told me to first and foremost pray and ask God to prepare that person that would be my sponsor. I was also reminded that they gave me this catchphrase, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so for me, the challenge was, what do I need to do to be ready? And for me, that looked like I need to come to meetings, I need to share, I need to listen to what other people are saying. And I was very set in my, this is what it needs to look like, this is who it needs to be, this is where I'm going to find one. And I went to a lot of outside meetings. And for me, it was okay to get a sponsor that was in Al-Anon or a different meeting. The only thing that was important to me was that Jesus Christ was their higher power, but there's some great recovery in other meetings. So that was really important. And some of the character traits I looked for was I dated them. I took them out to lunch or coffee to hear their story, hear where they were and what they were. And I was able to ask, what are you currently doing in your recovery? Because the reality is, I'm going to give that person a lot of freedom to speak into my life. And so I want to make sure that they're working a program. They're just not showing up to meetings and sharing in the rooms, but that they have a program outside of our meetings. And so I would ask them how far along they are in their steps. And the big key is, when I first joined recovery, I hated women. Hated them, didn't like to talk to women. And then they told me I had to have a woman as a sponsor. And I was like, I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to get a man because that's going to work for me, because all of my friends were men. And they were adamant that if I had gotten a man and was in a bad spot and shared that bad spot, I could be very vulnerable to take a step that would be inappropriate, or I could be triggering to a man in that area. So it's always women and women, men and men. And I think for me, I wanted to make sure their walk was matching their talk, that what they were sharing in the room, they could back up for me with their experience, strength, and hope. And I'm a control freak, so like I wanted to know. I didn't want to sit down and share with somebody all of my junk without really knowing where they were in life. So those are some of the things I look for.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Deja, why is it important to have a sponsor?
So for me, I avoid and I like to be by myself. So for me, having a sponsor is important because it kind of gets me outside of myself. And so when I'm speaking to my sponsor, she can help pull things out of me that I'm not aware of. And I think also that I realized that having a sponsor, I can't do my program by myself. I really wanted to. I really thought that I could, but I could not do my program by myself. So I think that my sponsor, like she's always taught me, is that she's just giving me suggestions. I don't have to follow those suggestions, but ultimately she is there to help me and she knows where I want to go. I know where I want to go, but I can't get there in my own strength and power, and she's going to help me get there. And so she's going to pull out those things that maybe I'm not aware of or that I'm seriously in denial in, and she knows that I'm usually 9 times out of 10 in denial. And so I hate telling her when I'm in denial. And so I think it's really important because having a sponsor is going to highlight those things, and it's not in a way to make me less than, it's just to get me to ultimately where I really want to be.
Nice. Thank you. Really, really good. And so this is a similar question to what I asked Christine just a second ago, but I'm going to go to you, James. It says, what are the requirements I should look for in a sponsor?
So the requirements I should look for in a sponsor, would be someone who is working the program, who has the commitment and is showing up all the time and is walking the walk instead of just talking the talk. And I would say, definitely sobriety and a little toughness, a little tough love. Yep. Somebody that's not going to tell me what I want to hear, but what I really need to know, and nice. Kind of push me a little bit. I require that at a personal level. I kind of flail around and will make excuses not to do things. I come up with these stories. And someone who's got a velvet hammer, it's a little tough love there. But yeah, I guess it's got to be a guy, right? Okay, I get all that. I thought, there's rare instances, but in the norm, that's what it's got to be. And yeah, I think that's the requirement. Let me think. Let me process here. In this capacity, follower of Jesus, if it was outside these rooms, obviously the AA program is the higher power thing and all that. I get that, but I really want to be connected with someone who is also in line with my spiritual beliefs. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. That's really, really good. So in that same thought, I'm going to go to you, Mickey. How do sponsors know that we are ready to begin working the steps? How do I let him or her know?
How do sponsors know?
Microphone.
Right.
I'm thinking.
We're going to read it. Okay. How do sponsors know that we are ready? Excuse me. How do sponsors know that we are ready to begin working the steps? And how do I let him or her know?
Second question first. You won't have to let them know. They will know. And they'll know by the test they basically put you through before they let you start the steps, which you may or may not even be aware of. But you don't just, I didn't anyway, just get a sponsor and then day 2 we start the steps. So it's a process. And if that sponsor is a sponsor that they should be, they will wait you out and they will test you and they will examine and ask questions and figure out where you're at and what you need before you start the steps. And then they'll know when.
Yep. I know that's my experience as well. When I got a sponsor, We didn't start the steps right away, but I knew that that's what we were going to do. And he had me do all of these things. Like I said, call him for 7 days. And then after that 7 days, call me again for 7 days. It was like, and then meet him. Was I going to be serious? And a lot of what Mickey's touching on there is exactly that. Are you serious? If you're serious about working through the steps, it will be evident through the communication, through the consistency, because sponsors don't want their time wasted, and you don't want to waste your time either. And the idea of a sponsorship is that you guys are going to be navigating through the steps of recovery while also navigating, life on life's terms. And so I think Mickey put it right. The idea is you're going to have a sponsor, you're going to go through some things that the sponsor's asking you to do, and then the sponsor is going to initiate this process. But the idea is that we will begin, in some time. Thank you for that. Christine, if I can't get recovery without God, but do not know God, how do I find him in recovery?
So when I came into the rooms of recovery, I could say, I asked Jesus into my heart. I did it at a preschool thing that my son was at, but then I took that and put it on the shelf. And so for me, I found a personal relationship with Jesus somewhere within my steps. I can't tell you right where it took place, but I decided, I think as I started to tear down all of those protection mechanisms that I had built up, that I was willing to turn my life over to a power greater than myself that I call Jesus. And so I remember someone saying to me once, the answer for what you want is not the steps, but the steps are going to lead you to the ultimate healer. And that's what I found.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was great. And so I'm going to end on this. What am I going to end on? I know, the suspense, right? There's so many good ones that it's hard for me to choose right now. Thinking about faith, thinking about, faith in God, what does young faith look like? Deja.
What does young faith look like? So I remember when I found Jesus. It was in 2020, August 11th is when I got baptized, but it was in August of 2020. And I think for me, what young faith looked like is I was very hungry. I was hungry. I came to a place in my life where I realized that the common denominator for everything that went wrong in my life was me, and that I didn't have any power to fix that. And so when I gave my life to Jesus, I was hungry to get better. I was hungry. I was willing, and I still struggled. There were still hard parts. But I would say I was hungry, and I was desperate, and I was hot, humble, open, teachable and transparent to know that something's going to happen, or I need to do something. And I would say the main thing was just that desire and that longing.
Nice. Thank you guys so much. Could we please honor them? We are all set. Good stuff. Thank you. Just leave it like that. It's fine. Keep it going. Keep it going. That was awesome. Good job, guys. Thank you. All right. Now we are going to enter into a time of celebration, because in recovery, we love to celebrate the milestones that we have. And so if I can, please call up my chip huggers right now. Yeah. And so as we go through our celebrations tonight, women who are going to be receiving chips, please go over to my right, your left. And men who are going to be receiving chips, please go to my left, your right. And this is what we're doing. We love to celebrate the victories that we have inside of recovery. And so the ways that we do that, we denote them with these different lengths because we recognize that these are the times that we're vulnerable inside of recovery. And so we are going to begin with the blue chip. And so the blue chip is our surrender chip. You know, with the blue chip, we have the ability to recognize that we want what we haven't been able to obtain yet. And so this is from 1 day through 29 days. If you guys are ready to begin a life of recovery, to begin turning something over to God, you are recognizing a way that you need victory inside of your life, I really encourage you to get up and to come get a blue chip. Anybody for a blue chip tonight? Yeah! Yeah, keep it going. All right, next is the red 30-day chip. It's 30 days. You know, hey, there we go. All right. Hey. Good job, good job. Next is the green 60-day chip. It is green, reminding us of the growth that we have inside of this recovery program. Green, the grass is now starting to grow in between our house and the liquor store, you know. So green 60-day chip. Anybody for a 60-day chip? Yeah! Woo! Good stuff, guys. Next is the white 90-day chip. 90 days. It's white, reminding us of the purity that we find inside of Jesus Christ. And as we are continuing to in our recovery program, we can see the whites in our eyes. Anybody for a white 90-day chip? All right, what do we say? Keep coming back. Yes, that's right. Next is the yellow 6-month chip. And I have a friend that would say it's not yellow because there's nothing yellow about recovery. And so it is yellow, reminding us of the friendship that we have inside of Jesus Christ and our recovery family. Anybody for a 6-month? Yeah! Awesome. Next is our 9-month black chip. It is black, reminding that we are no longer subject to this sin and darkness inside of our life. Anybody for a black 9-month chip? What do we say? Keep coming back. That's right. And last is our gold. All right, so here's the deal. Metal is precious, and our recovery is precious. And so this is our gold, our precious chip. As we've been moving forward in recovery, a lot of us might have thought we never would have been able to make it here, but there are so many amongst us right now that have made it to a year and multiple years. In the month of January, who has a year or more to celebrate tonight? Come and get a gold chip. That's okay. What do we say? Keep coming back. All right. And if you felt a stirring, if you felt that you see that you want what these other people have that have been getting up to get these chips, and you want another chance at getting a blue chip so that you can surrender the thing that has been dragging you down, causing you to come into these rooms, this is the time to do it. Anybody for a blue chip? All right, guys. Great job. Please, let's honor our chip huggers tonight. All right, now we are going to begin closing. In closing, we've been doing a great thing here tonight. We've been honoring each other. We've been celebrating each other. We've been interacting in community. And that is a basic way that you guys can give back, is by coming and being a part of this recovery community. But if you do have the ability to give financially, there are different ways you can do that. You could give in person here, or you can go onto the app that Sam told you about earlier, and you can scroll down to the Give tab, and you can give for Celebrate Recovery. We would really appreciate you doing that. It's just a good thing so that we can continue to see the experience, strength, and hope happening in this setting. We just are so grateful for your giving. Thank you. You can tell I don't do this every week. Next is the closing locations. And so on my left, your right, we're going to have the men's chemical dependency and men's open share. And then on my right, your left, we're going to have 2 open groups for women's open share. And then we're going to have a women's chemical dependency. This is something that I really recommend you go to, because this is where you're going to find the person that is sharing that you see has what you want. And you will be able to go and ask them, hey, can you be my sponsor? Or like Mickey shared, can you point me in the direction of somebody who can sponsor me? Those are really good spots for you to start to scope out who's going to be that person for you. And then lastly is we're going to do our closing with the Serenity Prayer. So if you are able to, please stand. And we're going to close in the Serenity Prayer. And so it says this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. Get recovery. Yeah.